overconfident, because in the end, you have to do it by yourself, right? We need to make sure we can. All right, number 19. Solve. Easy. Easy, easy, easy. What are we going to do?
Your 4 is going to be your base number.
Loop-de-loo it. Yep, we're going to loop-de-loo it. So the 4 is going to become the base. So it's going to be 4
Squared.
to the second equals 3x plus 1. So it looks like x equals 5. All right, what are we going to do with number 20?
Foil.
We're going to FOIL it. And we're going to remember that I squared is -1. Because when I FOIL this, I'm going to get an I squared. So 2 minus 3i, 5 plus 4i. All right, so here we go. Foiling, I get 10 plus 8i minus 15i minus 12i squared. And if I need to, I'm going to write out the word FOIL to remind myself first, outside, inside, last. These two add together and make -7i. What's this? That'd be 12 plus 12. So our answer is 22 minus 7i. What property is shown? There is one property question on the exam. Just one. So if you don't know any of your properties, that probably isn't a good way for you to spend your time. There's only one of them. But if you know your properties, it should be an easy point.
What's like the portion of calculator and non-calculator on the exam?
It's just like a practice exam.
Alright, so with that, I got associative
No.
property of addition.
No, it's not associative, it's actually commutative. Because what has changed is the order inside the parentheses. And when the order changes, it's commutative. So this is a commutative problem, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and factor the denominator because I always want to have all my denominators factored. And now I'm going to multiply every term by the common denominator, which is x plus 1, x minus 2. Now, most of you get this far. And then I don't even know what happens. Some of you end up with these massive messes. Stop right here. Do not do another thing until you cancel. Now, write down what's left. It's a tiny little thing. It's not big.
Yeah,
It's x minus 2.
plus 3x plus 1 is 5.
That's all that's left. Because I canceled. So after you go through and multiply, you're going to cancel. And then solve what's left.
X squared minus 2x plus 3x plus 3 is 5. X squared plus x minus 2.
And after I got it all distributed out and collected like terms, I ended up with a little quadratic. that? I can factor it, or I can use the quadratic formula. This one does factor. So x equals -2 or 1. Now you do need to be careful with these problems because sometimes they have extraneous roots. Can x be -2? Yeah, I think that's okay. That doesn't make a 0. And either does 1. 1 doesn't make a 0 in the denominator, so we're all good. But sometimes, like, let's say we've done this and we got x equals 2. We'd have to throw that out. Because if we put 2 in, we would get a 0 in the bottom. And that's not allowed. Okay. Alright. Now we're switching to the calculator part. Everything we've done so far has been no calculator. Now we're switching to the calculator part. All right, list the PRRs. You don't really need a calculator for this. Listing the PRRs. What are the PRRs?
Plus or minus 1.
Factors of 27 over factors of 3. So whatever order you want to list them, it's last over first. So 27, 9, 3, and 1 over 3 and 1. Now we're going to list those. That's not a list. We're going to list them. So all of those numbers over 1, and then all of those numbers over 3. So the only thing that does is add 1 3. That's your list. Okay. Now, find the solutions algebraically. Okay, so what does that mean? What do I need to do? Huh? Okay, so if I'm going to choose to do that, which is fine, it's a great option, I need to pick one of these numbers. I need to see if it gives me 0, and then I need to divide it out. So why don't we just try 1? Let's just keep it easy and try 1. So 3 minus 3. I think that works, doesn't it? I think 1 gives me 0. So I'm going to go ahead and divide out 1. Now, if you guess wrong, you're not going to get a 0 there, right?
Yeah.
If you guess wrong. But we guessed right. So it's all good. Now, where do I go from here? So the new equation is 3x squared plus 27. Okay. What can I do with that? Factor out of 3.
So it's going to be minus 3 plus 9.
Nope. X squared plus 9 does not factor. It's not the difference of squares. So x squared equals -9, and x equals plus or minus 3i. So our 3 answers are the one that you guessed, and then the plus or minus 3i that we found. Remember, this is a quadratic equation. If you don't know what else to do, put it in the quadratic formula, and it will give you the right answer. Now, one thing about this problem, nobody said anything, but it actually does factor by grouping. So if you wanted to do it that way, you could. Not every problem factors by grouping, but this one does. So you could do that if you wanted to. Of course, it will not impact the answers. The answers will be the same no matter what. Okay. Now, how do we solve an equation like this?
Take the natural log of it.
Yep, we're gonna take the natural log of both sides. In other words, ln both sides. And what
ln
magical thing
ln
happens?
is u.
These cancel.
So you're left with 3x plus 1 equals ln 10.
Yep.
And you solve for x.
So we'll subtract 1.
As you just did.
X equals ln 10 times 1 over 3.
And divide by 3. Now, when you type that in, make sure that you're typing it correctly. ln 10, close parentheses, minus 1 equals, divided by 3. 0.434. Doesn't say how to round. So 4342 would be 10,000. All right, number 25. Need a formula for this.
A equals p parentheses 1 plus r over n to the n.
Yep, you need your compound interest formula. I'm gonna give you the formulas, but you need to know which ones to use. And it's gonna be this one. Because that is the compound interest formula. And this says we are compounded monthly.
So n is 12.
Yep, so n is gonna be 12.
The PV, 1200.
P is 1200, because that's what I start with.
1
The
plus
interest
point
rate is 0.031.
over
Remember, your interest rate, you gotta move the decimal point 2 places, right? So it's 0.031
12.
divided by 12, like Brendan said, and it's for 10 years, so this will be 120,
Yeah.
12 times 10. And I just type it in exactly the way it's written.
$1,635.
So 1635.46.
It says to the nearest dollar.
Going to the nearest dollar,
So 16.
then it would be 35. To the nearest dollar. All right, 26. Now, this is a different formula. Yep, this is per, because anything that's not money is gonna be per. Okay?
You got 912
So I ended up with 912.
equals 154.
I started with 154. I have no idea what my growth rate is, but I know my time is 3.5.
Yeah.
First thing,
First thing is,
you divide by 154.
I gotta divide by this extra number. Now, it's probably not gonna be pretty. I don't care, I got a calculator.
5.9221.
I don't round it off. I don't care what it is, I'll let my calculator do that later. Round off error will be minus points, so I prefer not to round anything off till the very end. Now, this looks exactly like an equation we had a little while ago.
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Oh.
ln both sides, because that will wipe this out. So ln that fraction equals 3.5r.
And then you divide by 3.5.
So divide that ln that fraction by 3.5, and that's going to be my r. So again, you can't miss this if you remember to close the parentheses. ln 912 divided by 154, close parentheses, divided by 3.5.
0.5082.
So r is 0.5082.
And make that 50.82%.
You can, you don't have to, that would be fine. It is a percentage, growth percentage. Number 27, here's another one. Straight off Mrs. Fields, Algebra 1 exam. Write the equation of the line. How do we write the equation of a line? Find the slope. How do we find the slope?
y2 minus y1.
8 minus 6 over 4 minus 5. Y minus y over x minus x, right?
Yeah.
Please get that right. This is another freshman problem. Please get it right.
Then you
Now what?
points left down.
Pick a point. I'll just use this one. It doesn't matter. Y minus 6 equals negative 2x minus 5. Now the directions don't tell me what form to use. So what form is this?
Points left.
That's point slope, and it's perfectly okay. But it might say slope intercept,
So y equals negative 2x plus 16.
which means we have to get the y by itself. And some of you like that form better anyway, so you're going to do it automatically.
28.
All right, we are going to the store. We're going to buy something that costs us $3.20. We're going to make 2 adjustments to it. One of our adjustments is a 20% discount.
So minus.
One of our adjustments is a 7% tax.
So it would be
Agreed?
Yeah.
0.8.
So now, what do I multiply by? What reflects a 20% discount?
0.8.
0.8 or 0.80. I like 80 because 100 minus 20 is 80, but 0.8 is fine,
1.07.
and 1.07.
And then you get.
We just take out our trusty calculator.
You get $71.22.
8320 times 0.8 times 1.07, $71.22. How many gallons of an 8% solution should be added to 100 gallons of a 90% solution to get a 65% solution? How many gallons of 0.08 should be added to 100 gallons of 0.90 to get
65.
a 65% solution? Every time we do one of these, we fill in all the numbers of the problem, and there's one empty parenthesis.
100 plus x.
When it's over here,
100 minus.
it's gonna be 100 plus x. That's the total. It's these two added together. That's the total. So 0.08x plus 90 equals 65 plus 0.65x. 25 equals 0.57. I'm trying to do this without a calculator, and I'm probably making mistakes all over the place.
That's
25 divided by 0.57,
43.86.
so about 43.86 gallons. Now we have a big exponent that we need to simplify. So there's lots of ways to start this. You have to do it however it makes sense to you. So, who's got an idea?
Would it be 4x to the 8th over z to the 8th over 3y to the 9th, but then you
Wait,
have to put the
so you're cleaning up the inside here? Okay, that's one way to start. It happens to be my favorite way to start. I like to clean up the inside. So I'm going to forget that 2 for a second. I'm just going to clean this up. So I have my 4 and my 3. Nothing to do with that. Now, this guy's going up. There's already 5 of them up there. If there's 5 people upstairs and 3 more go upstairs, now you've got 8 people. I don't know how you missed that. Now there's 7 people in the basement, but 2 more are coming down. So now we got 9 people in the basement. I got 1 guy upstairs, but 7 more are going up. So now there's 8. So the inside is all fixed. Now we have to square everything.
would be 16 over 9.
So 16 over 9,
And then x to the 10.
x to the 16, z to the 16,
Or y to the
y to the 18. When you have 2 powers, you multiply them. When you raise a power to a power, you multiply them. Okay, now we have our infamous box problem. Lots of questions, okay. Write the equation for the volume of the box. Who remembers what the volume of the box is going to look like if the paper's 20 by 16? Now I know you, I know. Is there no one else remembers? Okay, it's bad news. All right, Ty, go ahead.
Parenthesis 20 minus 2x.
Dimension minus 2x,
16
dimension minus 2x times x. That's the way it is every time. I've explained it, and explained it, and explained it in chapter P and chapter 1. Obviously, you don't remember, so it's time to memorize it. Dimension minus 2x, dimension minus 2x times x. That's the equation. Now, what's the domain? In other words, what can you tell me about the size of x, which is those corners? What are the limitations?
X has to be greater than 0.
It's got to be bigger than 0 for sure,
X
because you can't have a negative corner. And then it has to be what? Somebody's got to remember. Yeah.
Doesn't it have to be like smaller than 8? Does it have to be
Smaller than 8. Because what's 8? Half the smaller dimension. Your domain is always 0 to half the smallest dimension. Every time. If you go back and look at your notes, that's written all over them. Or should be. Now, I'm going to graph this in my calculator, but first, I'm asking you to consciously set up your window. This is x min. Every time. Every time, that's x min. This is x max. Every time. Y min is always gonna be 0. Because Y is the volume, and the volume can't be negative. So the minimum volume is 0. And then Y max, pick a number. Just pick one. And then type in your equation and hit graph. What do we need to see?
The top of the point.
You need to see the top of the hill. If you don't see the top of the hill, then you need to go back and pick a different Y max. Remember doing this, kids? We played with it until we got one that worked. And there's lots of possibilities. There isn't just one number. There's tons of them. But you gotta see the top of the hill. All right, so let's get that graphed. So I put in the equation exactly the way I wrote it. Don't multiply it out. Set up your window exactly the way you said. Now, this is what I saw, which tells me I need to make my Y max a little bit bigger. I'm making it a little bit bigger. Now I see my hill. That's the point I want. So second calc, maximum, left bound, right bound, yes, and that point is 2.94, comma 420.11. The question says, what size corners should we cut out to maximize the volume of the box? 2.94. This is the X. That's X. This is the X coordinate. So this is the corners. 2.94 inches. Yeah. Okay? Now, real quick, I want you to look at the other review sheet. I want you to look at the back side of the other review sheet. The back side, the very back of the other review packet.